Time now for the Verizon 5G Speed Round, Christopher. And we're going to focus on the AFC matchups in Week 17 in a what's more likely format. Let's get right to it. The Miami Dolphins at 10-5, trying desperately to get into the postseason. They could be the cheese that stands alone in the AFC. They are at the Buffalo Bills. What's more likely? Ryan Fitzpatrick goes Fitzmagic and has 1 touchdown, or your boy Blue Josh Allen has 3 touchdowns. What's more likely?
Well, it's tough just because we don't really know what Buffalo's going to do, right? That's where it's like, I don't know. Are they going to play the full game? Like we talked about all week. If I'm Buffalo, my number one goal this week is just to avoid Baltimore in the first round of the wild card playoffs. That's really what I'd be worried about. I'd play to beat the Dolphins and maybe be scoreboard watching. And once you saw maybe the Browns were beating the Pittsburgh Steelers and maybe going to win the game, you take them out. I don't know. I think if I'm going to choose either one here, I'm going to go Josh Allen has 3 TDs. I don't feel comfortable about that, but there's no guarantee Fitzpatrick gets in the game. And what if the Dolphins play their good defensive run game bootlegs like we've seen them be when they are successful with Tua? That could be a possibility, and Fitzpatrick never gets in. So I'm going to go with Allen and 3 TDs.
Yeah, look, I really do believe that the Bills need to keep building the momentum that we've seen grow and grow and grow the past several weeks. And I agree with you. You ideally would like to avoid the Baltimore Ravens, but I don't know how much of that you can actually engineer by choosing to play to win or not win. There's still benefit in knocking out a division rival.
Yep.
And the Dolphins would not get in if they would lose, and Baltimore wins, Cleveland wins against a Pittsburgh team that won't be playing Ben Roethlisberger, and the Colts win over the Jaguars. That's what keeps the Miami Dolphins out. And right now I think that they are going to be the one that is left out. For as good as they've been and as dramatically as this team has turned around, it's going to be one more year until they get to the playoffs, I fear.
Yeah.
Back in week 2, Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns against the Miami Dolphins in that 31-28 victory by Buffalo over Miami. All right.
Mike, I was
go ahead.
just one thing.
Else?
Well, I was just going to say with that too. I mean, just looking at it to like what you said, to keep the pedal on the metal, do all that, I think when you really look at it, the best way for them to avoid Baltimore is just to win the game, because I think that's the less likely scenario that Baltimore will end up being in as the 7 seed is like the least likely thing. So that, to me, you win the game, great, you keep the momentum going, and you ensure, the least likely thing of happening, which is Baltimore, or having to deal with them, in the first round wild card.
The Cleveland Browns need to get a victory over the Steelers. I mentioned Ben Roethlisberger won't be playing. It'll be Mason Rudolph. Baker Mayfield had a bad game against the Jets with multiple fumbles. Here he is when he was asked yesterday by Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com about his performance in Week 16.
I don't know. I've had my back against the wall many a times in my life. I think I handle that type of stuff correctly. You just one day at a time till Sunday. I can't win it right now. I have to move on from the game and work to get there.
Will you use it to your advantage? Sometimes a mad baker is a good baker.
No, I was thinking I was probably going to use it as a disadvantage and, maybe drop the ball 4 more times. I don't know.
Can't help himself. He's suppressed his nature almost all season. He got to Week 17. That's just who he is. Whether you like it or not, that's who he is. He's a smartass. As a card-carrying smartass, I can relate to it. But in certain settings, you suppress it. And he had suppressed it in press conferences all year long. He was using quotes from The Office and Parks and Rec instead. He finally ran out of quotes from other TV shows, and he went back to being a smartass, Chris.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. And, that's Mary Kay Cabot, who's a legend in the NFL media and the Cleveland, following the Browns football team. I wish, he didn't do that. I wish he would come up with just some funny comment from a show again or something like that, because, that just is it's a little bit of a low blow or whatever, either way. But Baker,
it's not like it was a ridiculously stupid question.
No, it was not.
You're
looking
question.
Exactly. You're right.
You could give a smart-ass answer to 95% of the questions that are asked by people who are just doing their jobs. She is just doing her job as the liaison between a football team and football fan. And you come off, frankly, as a punk when you act that way. I'm sorry I said it, but that's how you come off.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. You're right. And it is a legitimate question. I mean, yeah, turnovers happen. What is it in your mind this week? That's all she was going. What's in your mind? What's your approach? Is there something done at practice to be a little bit more aware of it? Whatever. Are you using it? Is there something you saw on film where you didn't have two hands on the ball? Listen, he fumbled twice last week. It wasn't like it was like egregious where you're just like, how could he fumble? And what an idiot. I mean, he got crushed both times, blindsided. So, I mean, that's going to happen in football, especially when you got tight ends and practice squad people playing wide receiver and they can't get open. And then you got to pat the ball and wait because nobody's open and all of that. But, yeah. Listen, Baker's been awesome all year long. He's playing awesome on the field. He can wipe that off totally. He'll be awesome altogether.
All right, so what's more likely? Myles Garrett gets 2 or more sacks of his good friend, sarcasm alert, Mason Rudolph, or Baker Mayfield has at least 1 turnover.
I'm going to go Myles Garrett gets 2+ sacks. I got to think in a day, like Myles Garrett's at quarterback, all right. Baker Mayfield should go, okay, their offense has been struggling with Big Ben at quarterback. I would imagine it's going to struggle with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. So when you play the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the parts of playing them is going, wait, I'm not going to let the Steelers defense win the football game by scoring points. That's what he did the first time. Threw a pick 6 on the first series of the game. Pittsburgh's defense won the game before the offense really ever had to do anything. That's part of playing the Steelers. So I think he'll realize that he's been good for the most part ever since that game, other than last week, which I said wasn't necessarily all his fault. I'm going to go with Myles, gets the 2+ sacks on Mason.
Cleveland gets in with a victory over the Steelers or an Indianapolis loss or a Tennessee loss and a Miami win and a Baltimore win, and I still don't understand what has to happen. Just win, Cleveland.
What do you think's going to happen there?
And you're in. I think they're going to win. God, if they can't beat the Steelers with Mason Rudolph, they don't belong in the playoffs, Chris.
No, I know that, but I want to know what you think. 2+ sacks or Baker Mayfield turnover? That's what you asked. I want to know your answer.
Myles Garrett, 2+ sacks. Are you kidding me? Myles Garrett getting a shot at Mason Rudolph? Yeah, Myles Garrett, 2+ sacks of Mason Rudolph on Sunday. All right, Titans at the Texans. What's more likely? Derrick Henry gets to 2,000 rushing yards or Deshaun Watson throws 4 touchdown passes? Derrick Henry needs 223 to get to 2,000, and the only guy in the NFL who could pull off 223 in a Week 17 right now is Derrick Henry. So will he do it, Chris? Or will Deshaun Watson throw 4 touchdowns?
He definitely can do it, especially against Houston. Houston is, again, if your offense is struggling, the doctor orders Houston's defense to come to town. That's what the doctor does. There's too much to defend on the Titans' offense altogether. The Titans still got to win, to get in the playoffs. They're not guaranteed of a spot either as we sit here, which is amazing to say out loud. Man, their defense is so not good to where I could see Deshaun Watson throw. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson throws 4 touchdowns. I am.
Wow.
I am. I'm going to go with that. 223 is just a little too much. So, I could see him getting 180, something like that. But 223, I don't know if I can put my name to that. I could see Watson 4 TDs more realistic.
Way back in Week 6, Henry had 212 rushing yards against the Texans, but Watson did have 4 touchdown passes against Tennessee that same week, and the Titans have allowed 33 touchdown passes this year, tied for second most in the NFL. Hard to feel good about the Mike Vrabel defense when you've given up that many touchdown passes. All right, the Colts, one of the other teams that are intertwined with the Titans to see who's going to win the division. Jaguars, 1-14. They started the year with a win over the Colts. They've lost 14 in a row. It would be perfect if they would end the season beating the Colts. Colts at 10-5. What's more likely? Phillip Rivers takes 2 or more sacks, or he throws 3 touchdown passes against the Jaguars?
I'm going to go with the 3 touchdowns here. I'm going to go with that. I know Anthony Costanzo's out at left tackle for the Colts. That stinks. He is, one of the better left tackles in football, definitely. But the Jacksonville defense, not a great pass rush, not one single pass rusher that you're worried about that way. They're not good at defending the pass. I would think Rivers is going to find people open, get the ball out of his hands, and they've become a decent running football team here as of late. So with that, I'm going to go with the 3 touchdowns, and I think that's more of a possibility than going more than 2 sacks.
I mentioned the Titans have 33 passing touchdowns allowed this year, tied for second most in the NFL. The other team tied with them, the Jaguars, with 33 passing touchdowns. And look, this could be a dangerous game for the Colts because the Jaguars just don't care. They just don't care. Right. This is kind of, not that it's a game anyone's going to be paying attention to. It's not in prime time. It's not nationally televised. But the Jaguars just don't care. And the organization, now that they've locked up the Trevor Lawrence pick, they can they don't have to try to lose. Just go all out, see what you can do. This is where a team is dangerous. The point you made earlier in the show about the Eagles. The Jaguars go for it on 4th down, onside kick, fake punt, fake field goal, do anything. Who cares? Who cares?
Right.
What's the difference between 1-14, 1-15, 2-14? Who cares at this point? They have a brighter future with Trevor Lawrence. Let's just go have some fun.
I agreed. That they are scary that way. And, with Doug Marrone and that team too, I don't expect them to be that, we're going to lay down type of football team and it's over. No, I don't. Jay Gruden's done a good job on the offensive side of the ball. Every week they make plays on the offensive side of the ball and do things that way too. I mean, they're kind of a fun watch, even though they're going to lose the game. It's always a pretty fun game to watch when it's Jacksonville involved. But I think they'll be outmanned here, and I think the Colts being desperate, having to win and need help, all that, the dam will break at some point for Jacksonville.
3 years ago, all the Ravens had to do was beat the Bengals to get into the playoffs. Andy Dalton had something to say about that with less than a minute to play, 44 seconds on the clock, a 49-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Boyd, and that was that for the Ravens. This time around, the Ravens need a win, and they're in against the Bengals in Cincinnati this time. Lamar Jackson has 80 or more rushing yards, or Baltimore's defense has 3 takeaways. Chris, what's more likely?
Ooh, well, both are very likely. That's for sure. I think, though, the one that I look at more than anything here is I think the 80-plus rush yards. I'm going to go with that. I am. Cincinnati, awesome secondary. If this Baltimore was a passing team, I'd go, ooh, this is scary to play Cincinnati, just like we saw with Pittsburgh a few weeks. They got the studs back there. But the run defense, that's another story, and it's not very good. And Baltimore's got it going right now. They got it going. We've talked about it all week. We don't want to see I wouldn't want to see them AFC playoffs. They're starting to pound people in the running game. Lamar looks good. The pass game is effective enough to at least where they're putting Hollywood Brown in positions to get the ball. It's not going to blow you away, but I'm going to go with the 80-plus rush yards. I am. I don't know. I think Cincinnati will do their best. Three takeaways is a lot, and I feel better about 80-plus rush yards.
Lamar Jackson has had 80-plus rushing yards in 3 of his last 4 games, but he had 2 carries for 3 yards against the Bengals back in Week 5. I agree with you. This is a different team.
Yeah.
And last year, it was the Titans that disrupted our presumed Ravens-Chiefs AFC Championship game. I feel like this year the Ravens could disrupt our presumed Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game by beating one or the other, depending upon how the draw works out in the AFC. All right, we're going to take a draft. We're going to take a draft.
We're going to take a draft.
I would like to take it.
The whole draft.
We're
taking
right
it.
Now. We're going to take a break right now. We have changed our typical Thursday draft, Chris. I hope you're on board with this. We're not doing the matchup draft because these are all matchups we've already seen and we've talked about them. We're doing the Show Me Something. This is usually on Friday when you are sound asleep.
Yes.
When we do the Show Me Something draft. That is what we are going to do next. We're going to take a draft and then have a break, or take a break and then have a draft of Show Me Something next here on PFT Live.
Pro Football Talk is brought to you by Verizon, the 5G America's been waiting for.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.